Good afternoon everyone. Thank you very much for joining me on this latest video. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everyone who continues to comment, likes, subscribes and shares. I really appreciate it. And one thing I will say just before I start, if you do happen to be a new subscriber and and you don't get notified of any new videos, what I would do is I would just check the channel, because I'm getting a lot of people removed at the minute. I mean, the channel's taken some serious hits with regards to views, etc. It was always going to happen. It doesn't bother me. It's actually given me more encouragement just to keep going. I'm definitely experiencing some difficulties when trying to upload videos. There's things happening on my phones that weren't happening before. It's really quite irritating, and it does dishearten you, there's no doubt about it. However, that's why they do it, because it does bring you down, and it sort of puts you off, but I'm not going to allow it to do that. Because I want to keep on going with it, because it's important that there's enough people putting out real information, and I like to consider myself to be one of them. Now, just recently, there's obviously been a lot of discord in the country, if you like. It's basically, as you, I mean, it's like a leaking gas pipe that's just waiting on a spark. There's definitely a race war being stirred. There's no doubt about it. The tragedies in Southport, that was the trigger to set it off. Now, a few weeks ago I said in a video that I wouldn't be, now that the floodgates have opened after Keir Starmer's now became the Prime Minister, I wouldn't be surprised if things started to happen with regards to attacks on white people or British people, and it would be blamed on immigrants. Now, I'm not saying that it was engineered, that tragedy the other week there. It's very possible it was. There's not enough evidence at the moment to suggest that that's what happened. It's irrelevant at this point anyway, because there's 3 young kids that have died, needlessly died, at the hands of some 17-year-old kid who, for whatever reason, has just decided to go and do this. Now, we've seen this happen many times. Actually, in my last video, it would explain a lot with regards to false flags, etc. Now, once someone said to me, "Oh, you're saying it's a false flag, so you're saying no one died." It's like, well, no, 9/11 was a false flag, but 3,000 people still died, but it was still a false flag operation. Now, this is how they stir the pot, and they stir these race wars, and they stir the anger and the hatred in people, and they blame, and they say they get one side to believing that it's the other side's fault, and they get the other side believing that it's that side's fault. All the while we're fighting, they're behind the scenes pulling the strings. And that appears to be what's happening again. And we've not learned from it. It's a tragedy that we've not learned from it, because... And when I heard last week that people were protesting, and everyone's got every right to be angry, I'm angry myself. I've been saying for months now that immigrants, they're not welcome in this country at the moment. While our resources are down, it's bursting at the seams. There's a lot of anger being stirred up, and I think we need to start getting control before we can let any more people in. However, Keir Starmer he has decided to open the floodgates, because he knows that by doing that it creates more chaos, and the more chaos they've got, the more order they can offer out of the chaos. Now, that is why I would encourage and seriously recommend anyone that's going to go and protest these matters, please, whatever you do, don't buy a carry-out. Protests and carry-outs of this nature, they just don't mix. Carry-outs don't mix in a lot of situations, to be fair, but this is definitely one of them where it definitely doesn't. Now, because what happens is, in the vast majority of these jobs, that's what they are. They've probably had enough of playing the Xbox or watching Netflix or whatever it is, and they've seen, oh, 3 young kids have been killed by a Muslim or an asylum seeker, or we don't even know that yet. Oh, great, I'll go and get a carry-out and I'll go and voice my anger at that. Probably the first political thought they've ever had in their head, it then resorts to violence. That, I'm sorry, is primitive, and we need to be done with that, because it has never served humanity before, and it won't serve us now. In fact, it's going to cost us even more to keep on doing that, because what it's going to do is, and the Cobra meetings are already happening, they are going to start talking about state of emergencies, and when people don't know enough about what a state of emergency is, and when they trigger it, it increases their power. So if we're out there rioting in the streets, then we can give them the excuse to do that. Now, I would recommend and suggest that we take a leaf from the protests in Turkey a few years ago when they were just standing silently. I think that's the best way to do it. Other than that, I mean, going and throwing missiles at police and wanting to fight with Muslim gangs, and Muslim gangs are now getting tooled up to come and fight back. Of course, that's what they're going to do when people are trying to set fire to hotels with asylum seekers in it now. But I'm sorry, but anyone that thinks that that's going to help this situation is very much mistaken, because, well, for starters, if it goes on fire and someone dies, you're going to prison for life, because it's arson and it's murder and arson, which is a serious crime. They're both serious in and of themselves, but coupled together, you're going to jail for pretty much the rest of your life. And so you should, because you've got to remember, well, there will be people in these hotels that aren't innocent. There are many that are, and they don't deserve to die. And I've said this many, many times since I started this channel. The vast majority of these people, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of these people are coming here for an easier life. And we can't hold that against them. And I've said as well that if some sunny peninsula, somewhere maybe Italy or somewhere like that, or Spain, were handing out free benefits where we could go there, we would go. Having said that, if that was to happen, and I had made a decision to go and live at this place, I would make sure that I at least respected their culture, respected their flag, and respected their way of life. I certainly wouldn't go there if I didn't like them, and I was looking to put mosques in every corner, or Christian church or whatever in every corner, and start hating on them. There's no point. I don't understand why people want to come and live in a place where they dislike everything about it. And I've said this many times, why the hell are you here? What are you doing here? What is it? Right, so it's free benefits. It's not actually a lot, really. It's, I mean, for single men it's not, as I've said before. Obviously you get paid for your kids and that's the attraction. But outside that, is it really worth looking out your window every day to seeing people that you loathe? Or them doing activities that you wouldn't consider, you wouldn't involve yourself in, or whatever, what they eat, what they drink. Like I say, their own culture. I don't agree with a lot of the British culture, but we have to let people live their lives the way they want to live them. And you can't come into this country and start dictating to us how we're going to live our lives. Now, I agree with both sides. I like guys like Tommy Robinson. I wouldn't be seen dead with him, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't. Anyone that needs to change their bloody name, why are you changing your name, mate? If you're wanting the truth, if you want to tell the truth and you're honest about your past and you genuinely want the best, why do you need to change your name? People said to me, oh, you better not put your name out there, or maybe just your first name and hide your face. No chance. I'm here for the right thing, and I want to tell the truth, and I want to do the right thing, so that means I need to be honest about who I am, what I've done, where I've been, and what my bloody name is. Anyone that needs to change that, I don't understand it. I get why actors' children do it, that's fine, because they want to go out on their own. But if you're wanting the truth, then you need to be truthful. But I would agree with Tommy Robinson on the fact that immigration needs to stop. It does need to stop. People like the EDL and the SDL, again, these are these jobs that I've spoken of. And I would agree with a lot, I would agree with most of them in immigration. I don't care what hits I take for this either, because it's the truth. We do not need jobs going and throwing bricks and setting fires. And I get the control system. I know people are angry. The truth will set you free, but first it will make you angry. But that doesn't mean to say you need to direct the anger at the right place. And directing it to people, poor people in bloody hotels, is not the answer. Now, there's a second aspect to it. There's a lot of young men coming here, or a lot of men coming here, from countries that don't have the same values as our own. And this area is no different. In Dumfries, we're having a lot of problems with men touching women are young girls or whatever, and they shouldn't be. In fact, my mum was and my sister were speaking to some lady who was a support worker, and she was supporting one of these immigrants, and he'd started to do that. He'd started to go over and touch this girl's leg, and the support worker had to explain to him, look, you can't do that here. I mean, this is a free country. You can't come here and do that. Women are treated as equals here. They're not second-class citizens. And that, again, if that's what you're coming here to do, you're not bloody welcome, and it's no wonder people are throwing bricks at you if you're doing that. But back to the Southport tragedy, and the kid that's supposed to have done this. Now, I'm not saying he's not done it, but Rwanda's a Christian country. It's overwhelmingly Christian. And his parents had immigrated from there. He was born in Wales. So we're not even sure what this guy's background is yet. We don't even know if he is a Muslim, and yet everyone's fighting. Muslims are fighting Christians or people with Christian values. I can't say everyone in Britain's a Christian because they're not. They might say Christian values. The vast majority of people want what's best for everybody. They try and help out when they can, and you get on with your life and try and enjoy yourself. But it's just like I say, it's divide and rule tool that's worked for them so bloody well in the past, and yet they're still using it because we've not learned from it. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you have always got. And if you take to the streets and start rioting, then guess what? That justifies them to bring in control measures, because people will say that, well, I don't want to back up the police. And this is everyday law-abiding people that don't want to be out rioting and acting like yobs. They would say that, well, actually, I agree with what some of these people and with their anger and why they're angry. However, we need to restore the order of law. So I need to back up the police in this with their martial law, their state of emergency, whatever it is, to try and regain control of that situation. And then other people will say to me that, well, we need a mass revolution or a mass war, and it's like, well, that's never worked for us before, and I've been saying for quite a long time that if war was the answer, this world would be at peace, because we've had so many of them, and yet we're still here. We're still watching the news, waiting for a spark and for the whole thing just to go boom. And there's a lot of people out there that like the lawlessness, they like the looting. It was like the riots in London in 2011. But it's so easy for these people to stir it up because we're not learning from it. The last video I posted with regard to the Nazis that were brought into democracy, one of my subscribers, he was quite annoyed because he'd said there was more pressing matters. Are you trying to do this for views? It's like, I'm not doing this for views. The views are out the window and they have been for a very long time. I'm just going to do it the way it needs to be done. He said there's more pressing matters or more pressing issues here. And I agreed, there are more pressing issues. However, the reason that there are more pressing issues is because not nearly enough people know about things like Operation Bloody Paperclip. I said to him, you do know about it, but so many people don't, and they need to, because it gives a great understanding for why things still are the way they are. Because these people, these criminals that committed that awful atrocity, yes, they're not here anymore, but the people that they taught are, the subordinates that were below them are, their ways of working were established just the way it's done in medicine and science, for manipulating the populace. There's actually a cartoon, it's called Chicken Little, and it explains it perfectly, and how it works. You go and watch it, because that's exactly how it works. And yet, we need to think. Thinking requires practice, it really does. I was thinking about this the other day there, and how just the slightest wee thing that I would need to think about, I would find it so difficult, so I would avoid it. And then the more you think, the better you get at it. And you're going to make mistakes, of course you are, that's part of learning. But if you're not thinking, and you just say, you jump straight to anger because some idiot has just went out and killed 3 young children, then you're going to lose the plot. You're going to end up getting yourself into trouble. And then you've got people like Keir Starmer who are absolutely stirring this up. There's no doubt about that. Him standing, see him standing there on them podiums with the bins in that stupid looking face of his. And anyone that voted for this man, just because he wasn't Rishi Sunak, I'll put it on you. A lot of this is on you because you've decided not to think, or think as much as the mainstream media allows you to critically think on something. They give you just enough. They tell you what you want to hear. And you voted for him because he wasn't Rishi Sunak. Now, it wouldn't have mattered if it was Rishi Sunak. Things would still be happening as they're happening because this is an agenda. And then you get people on these talk TV panels saying, well, I don't understand why they're doing this. Or where this, like Isabel Oakeshott, whatever her name is. Oh, this, I just don't get why Keir Starmer would do this. Well, because he's following a plan that many people before him followed, regardless of allegiance to what party. And he's paid up, there's no doubt about it. And he'll not do the right thing for humanity or for his constituents or any of that stuff. He will do what he has been told to do and nothing more. And that is the point. Now, Israel and Palestine is a huge part of it as well because there's things like this that stoke the fires. Now, if you'd seen Sky News, they got surrounded by people who were shouting Free Palestine. And again, I would agree with these people. I understand their anger because what's happening in Palestine is wrong. It doesn't matter what side your allegiances are to. This is wrong. It is a systematic destruction of a people and a country. That is a fact. And anyone that comes on any of these bloody mainstream news channels and says anything remotely connected to what I've just said, like people like James Whale, they throw them off. That's not being grown up because you're not listening to his opinion because you're just calling him a terrorist. You're supporting freedom fighters, but because he supports Gaza, he's a terrorist. I don't support any of them that run those countries. I support the innocent men, women and children on both sides that are being killed for no reason, not a good enough reason or no other reason than a group of elite scumbags that want to reassert or increase their control over us. Because that's all it is. And again, but we need somebody to blame. And they know that. So this is why they stoke up the fires. And as I had a family member come here the other day there and they said these words to me, we just need to get rid of the Muslims and we'll be fine. That's not true. That's I mean, listening to a taxi driver or somebody that phoned in Talk TV and their relative was a taxi driver and they didn't want to go to work. That's so, because he was a Muslim, that's bad, like. Just because of the colour of his skin, he was scared to go to work. He's probably stayed in Britain for years. Get rid of all the Muslims. That's not going to solve the problem. Get rid of all the Israelis. That's not going to solve the problem. Get rid of all the Yobs. That's not going to solve the problem. Do you know what will solve the problem? Waking up, taking your mind back and realising what's behind these atrocities, the power behind it that we've given them this power. These elite families that have ran this for a very, very long time using the same techniques. And until we learn that, until we realise there's puppet masters behind the curtains, we'll never go anywhere. We'll run on the spot. We will run on the spot, and that's what we're doing. Remove the elite families, and not all of them. You can't say all of them are bad, but the main ones, and we well know who we mean, your Rothschilds and even the Windsor family. I don't care what anybody says about them, but they are rotten to their core, and evil doesn't even begin to cover it when you look into the history of them. They disgust me. They absolutely disgust me. But we remove people like that, these networks. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. We'll have to think a lot more. We'll need to take on a lot more responsibility. But we will get on a lot better because every time a label gets added, it's an excuse, it's somebody to play it off against. Now, I heard a lot recently, people asking, what are British values? What are our British values? Well, my question to that is, or my response to that is, I would change that slightly. What is our values as a human being? As humanity, what is it you value? I value the truth. I value freedom. I value freedom of speech. I value decency. I value helping people when you can. I value trying to empathise and understand people's plights so that you don't rush to judge too quickly. I mean, I think every decent human being would pretty much agree with all of that. So why are we saying what's the British value? Because that's putting a label on it. It doesn't matter what country or what flag you stick to your wall. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's in your bloody heart. And like I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. When I moved to Bath, and I got into a place and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, there's guys running around pretending to be dinosaurs. That's a true story. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, where have I landed here? And I've got a load of white kids giving me hassle because of their strong Scottish accent. And there's only one person that came to my aid, and he was a Muslim kid. And I'm telling you, he was still to this day. I remember going to his house one day because he stayed round the back of us, and it was quite a big fancy house, and they were just such a nice family. And I remember him writing in a book on the way out the door, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, we need to write in the book and what time and where we're going, and what time we left it, and what time we'll be back." That was the rules, like, and if they didn't, they suffered discipline. And it's still to this day. I mean, this guy's probably went on to be a doctor or something like that. And not every Muslim family's like that, but the point is, that's where I learned that it's not the colour of somebody's skin that matters, it's what's in their heart that matters. And I think about him quite a lot, this one, because I don't know, and that time was difficult for me, it really was, and it would have been a lot more difficult if it wasn't for him. And that's why I kind of step back and kind of take a look at things again and think, no, well, we can't blame them all. Yes, there is evil people out there, hate preachers that want to blow us all up, and I don't agree with that. And I'm sure most Muslims, well, I know most Muslims, everyone I've spoken to, it's not in their values to kill Westerners, despite what you might believe or what you might hear on the news. And it's just... See, this is the thing, like, this is why we need to try and speak to each other and empathise compassionately to understand their culture and why they do things, because there's always a reason for why somebody's done something, and there's always a just reason usually. But to go and start bloody try to set fire to hotels, I can't get my head around that. Like, it's so horrific for people to die in a house fire or a hotel fire or something along that nature. It's not usually the flames that kill them. Even if the flames get put out, it's usually smoke inhalation that kills them. And the flames don't even need to be that big. So there's a misconception about that quite a lot of the time. Like, but is this what we've resorted? Is that British values? To go and get a carry out and start lobbing bricks and then setting fire to the first hotel that harbours some asylum seekers that you come across? It's just people wanting to have a good... I mean, they're having a good time. I wouldn't be having a good time at doing something like that because I wouldn't do it, but I'm not having a good time just now. And like I was going to say before, there's a protest coming in Dumfries soon, like, it's been postponed. My mum speaks to Mike Sutherland, the guy that organises it, and it's been postponed. But I will be attending it. I won't be throwing bloody bricks at police and all the rest of it. That's what's the point? It's a waste of my time, it's a waste of taxpayers' money, it's a waste of their time. Because there's a lot of... I mean, the police have been defunded anyway, and it's been getting defunded for years, and then that bloody idiot I forget his name, that's working in the prison system with Keir Starmer, he wants to release a third of the prisoners. That's another thing, because there's a lot of asylum seekers that are coming here that are being charged and put in prison. I mean, the prisons were already bursting at the seams, so now... there was already lenient sentences, there's going to be even more now. Because there's reports that there's a lot of quite serious crimes that are being committed by minorities that aren't being released, not being told. Same thing with this kid that's done the Southport thing. Why are we not being told more about his background? It's the same at Manchester Airport a couple of weeks ago. And I don't condone what that police officer done. There's no good reason. That guy was he was restrained and he was on the ground, and there was no need to kick him in the head, which could have killed him. But you had Andy Burnham coming out and saying, well, you've not seen all the footage. Well, how about, Andy, you bloody start treating us like grown-ups and let us see the footage. Just let us see it, instead of hiding things. Oh, you can't see this, or you might not want to see that. I'm not a bloody child. We need to see this. The horrors of this world, we need to stare it in the face, like, and we need to face it, because it's due to our ignorance of why it's been allowed to happen, and it's going to continue to happen as long as we keep going round in this bloody hamster wheel that we're on. And just on the Manchester airport as well, that lawyer's definitely, I mean, he's tried to stand for a politician before. I'm not sure, I think it was Labour. I mean, honest to God, the first picture I seen of him with his glasses on, it just looked like he was somebody that was worth the watching. And he will stir it up to his own advantage, there's no doubt about it. He's already tried to do that. But why don't you just give us the footage and treat us like adults, and then we can make a decision for it. We can say, right, well, it's still maybe not right why he kicked him in the head, but what preceded that? We could probably understand it, can't we? Well, yes, but it's still not right to do that, because it could have killed him. And he had a brother as well that, I mean, that lawyer, he said that his brother was a police officer, which I don't doubt, but he was scared to go to work because he thought they were going to kill him, and that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That's came from his mouth, not his. I don't think that's came from his brother's mouth. Or he'll have told his brother, this is how you should really be feeling, because he looks like a weasel. He won't be the first weasel solicitor or lawyer, will he? Let's be honest here. And he's boasted, I've looked at his feeds on Twitter and stuff like that, boasting about getting drug dealers off and come and see me, you want to have an illegal occupation, as long as you employ me you'll get away with it longer. That's not somebody that you would consider having human values. Definitely not. The police officer that kicked the guy in the head, I wouldn't say he's got human values. I would say he's stirred up with quite a lot of anger. And there's something I'd heard a few years ago, like when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Well, orange juice. When you squeeze an apple, what comes out? Orange juice. When you squeeze you, what comes out? And meaning, like, when something irritates you, that could be like a squeeze of any kind. So if something has irritated you, in this case it might be the way he treated his colleague, or this criminal treated his colleague. That's a squeeze. What comes out of him? Anger. And that's something that we need to deal with. So any time that you, I don't know, like something doesn't go your way or something goes wrong, if you're reacting to anger, or you're going straight to anger and reacting like that straight away to it, then you're filled with anger, as I was myself. And when I learned this, I thought, well, that's true. If something does irritate me, I do respond to anger, and it's not good for you. It really isn't. It poisons you. So you have to try and manage these triggers. I would think that if you're in a bloody police officer's job, I would like to think they've got courses of some kind to manage triggers, to avoid things like that happening. But the police are just as woke as anyone else now. They're doing what they're told to do, and that's it. And people like Keir Starmer, he'll not change anything. He's not paid to change it. He's paid to keep the status quo. Well, he's paid to change the status quo, but not anything good for us. And I can tell you now, we're rapidly, I know there's adverts coming out now saying, oh, it's 2050, because they obviously realise 2030 is a bit optimistic. But it's all 2050 now. But all this is a means to an end for them. It's the same with World War III. It's why they're trying to trigger World War III as well, because they need enough people to consent to the fact that we've had enough wars. The only thing that's going to stop that if we unite all the governments. And digital currency, world army, all that stuff, which is not good for us, it's good for them. It's easy for them to govern us then, because they see us as useless eaters. That term's been used quite a lot. And some people are. I was myself at one time. But that doesn't mean to say that just because you're doing that or not living a great life, it doesn't mean to say that that's the be all and end all of you, because it's not. Because all you need to do is realise that there's more in you, there's more to you, there's more to all of us. There's certainly more than going out in a protest and wanting to start fighting with a group of Muslim kids. I just don't understand how that's going to help anyone. Certainly the court systems, I mean, it's already strained. This is another thing that's stirring up the anger. They just release enough to stir it up. There's £25 million, and this is just one aspect of it. This isn't all interpreters. £25 million in the courts is being spent alone in the courts for criminals with interpreters from criminals from other countries needing interpreters in the court. And that was one thing I was going to say earlier on. If you're going to leave here and move to another culture, the first thing you need to do is learn a language. It's sort of why I'm learning Spanish, because I would like to think that I'll live in a warmer country as time goes on. And at least then, if I get a start on that now, I'll know the language by the time I do it. That's being respectful to one's culture, because how the hell can you interact in it if you don't speak the language? And they talk about health and safety and all the rest of it. It's like, how is it not a safety issue? If someone's working in a factory or a dangerous place of work and they can't understand English, that's dangerous to me. It really is, it's dangerous. And then it's just, I mean, £25 million for interpreters when people are going hungry, they're starving. Literally, there will be people literally going starving, like there's no doubt about it, and yet we're spending 25 million quid on, I mean, how many counties is there in Britain? Even £500,000 to each one for them. It would go a long way to helping. But yet we're spending it on immigrants so they can come here and break the law and given their rights in court or their day in court. I think that if you're an immigrant and you come here, or an asylum seeker, and the minute you bloody break the law, you don't get your human rights through that court. You go back, you get sent back to your bloody country that you came here looking for asylum from. Well, yeah, that should be your punishment. If you're not going to come here and value our culture, value our women and our kids and our people, the minute you break the law, you're gone. You're back there. Don't worry, you'll not need to go through the court. It'll save the court's money. It'll save British bloody... I mean, it will teach other immigrants as well that they can't come in here and do that because they're just going to get sent back. There's a way around everything. And this is the point when people say that, well, oh, Labour, they're not really doing enough for them. Well, no, because they won't do anything for us. You've been duped again. You have been duped again, Labour voters, that vote for Starmer and he'll change things. No, he won't change things. He was never going to change it. The agenda's accelerating. They're on course. They are on course. They must be rubbing their hands at this latest development with Southport. Because whatever's happened with it, whether it's been them that's done it, or whether it's this kid that's done it on just for no reason other than the fact that he's angry, it served them very well. And while we're in the streets, just getting tooled up and getting ready to go to battle, ready to do battle, they're just sitting back waiting for us to do that. And when they do, they can start applying their more measures. And they'll get the consent of most of the people, because most people are not like that. They'll get the consent to say, well, yes, martial law, the state of emergency has to be declared. Go and look to see what happens when your country declares a state of emergency and what they can do. You might think twice about going throwing bricks at police. And it's horrible. I seen a police guy getting his arse kicked the other day there, and it was so horrible to see. Like, it's like, why? And then there was some members of the public were trying to protect him, and then while they were doing that in front of him, there was people running up behind and kicking him up the arse, and it wasn't funny. Like, and this is the thing, we outnumber them. That's why we don't need to resort to violence, people, because we outnumber them. But the minute we start getting violent, we give them what they want. It's like John Lennon said, you can't be violent with them. They're trained for that. That's what they're hoping you'll do. Do you know what they're not trained for? People that are well informed, that are conscious of themselves and the world, conscious of the control system that governs them, and willing to do something peacefully and for the right reasons. They do not know how to deal with that, which is why they need to stir up so much anger in people, because when you get angry and stressed out, you disconnect for that. You disconnect for that rhythm of life. And that's why there's so much stress, worry and fear in the world, because they need to disconnect you from life so you can connect with their bullshit, like, so that you'll dance to their tune and do what needs to be done for them to build this bloody control system that they want to harbour everybody in, this Hunger Games super city that they're moving everybody into position for. And it's just, it really is. And I mean, I don't know what all the answers are. I've not got all the answers. I've only got the answers on what I've done and what's brought me here. And all you can do is tell people this is what I've done. Whether they choose to do that or not, you can't tell people what to do. They need to see it for themselves. So maybe it needs to go a bit further for people to realise that it's not the way to go. But if you are going to go and protest, you're not a far-right extremist as this fucking idiot Keir Starmer's telling people. I can't stand him, man. I really can't. Like, I try not to use the word hate, but I'm close to using it with him. And it is two-tier policing, no doubt about it. Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all the rest of it, just stop oil. That's fine, because that's serving the agenda that I've just been speaking about. What doesn't is protesting at the immigrants that they need to bring in to serve the agenda. That's why there's two-tier policing. I just wanted to say my piece on it because it's good to get it off your chest, and I'm just as angry as everybody else. Honestly, I am, but I don't need to go out and start causing more hurt and more violence to people, because it's not going to help anyone. It doesn't help anyone. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come on this, so look after yourselves and I'll see you soon.